Now, children, let us do well today for our mother, the Empress, and let us show all the world that we are brave men, and true to our oaths. The soldiers by loud shouts expressed their goodwill and assent. Fabrine remained near me, attentively watching the enemy. The people whom we could see on the steppe, noticing doubtless some stir in the fort, gathered into parties, and consulted together. The commandant ordered Iwan Ignatievich to point the cannon at them, and himself applied the match. The ball passed whistling over their heads without doing them any harm. The horsemen at once dispersed at a gallop, and the steppe was deserted. At this moment Vasilisa Egorovna appeared on the ramparts, followed by Marya, who had not wished to leave her. "Well," said the commandant's wife, "how goes the battle?" "Where is the enemy?" "The enemy is not far," replied Ivan Kuzmich, "but if God wills all will be well." "And you, Masha, are you afraid?" "No, Papa," replied Marya, "I am more frightened alone in the house." She glanced at me, trying to smile. I squeezed the hilt of my sword, remembering that I had received it the eve from her hand, as if for her defense. My heart burnt within my breast, I felt as if I were her knight, I thirsted to prove to her that I was worthy of her trust, and I impatiently expected the decisive moment. All at once, coming from a height about 8 versts from the fort, appeared fresh parties of horsemen, and soon the whole steppe became covered with people, armed with arrows and lances. Amongst them, dressed in a red caftan, sword in hand, might be seen a man mounted on a white horse, a conspicuous figure. This was Pugachev himself. He stopped, and they closed round him, and soon afterwards, probably by his orders, 4 men came out of the crowd, and approached our ramparts at full gallop. We recognized in them some of our traitors. One of them waved a sheet of paper above his head, another bore on the point of his pike the head of July, which he cast to us over the palisade. The head of the poor Kalmuk rolled to the feet of the commandant. The traitors shouted to us, "Don't fire! Come out to receive the Tsar is here." "Children, fire!" cried the commandant for all answer. The soldiers fired a volley. The Cossack who had the letter quivered and fell from his horse, the others fled at full speed. I glanced at Marya Ivanovna. Spellbound with horror at the sight of July's head, stunned by the noise of the volley, she seemed unconscious. The commandant called the corporal, and bid him go and take the paper from the fallen Cossack. The corporal went out into the open, and came back leading by its bridle the dead man's horse. He gave the letter to the commandant. Ivan Kuzmich read it in a low voice, and tore it into bits. We now saw that the rebels were making ready to attack. Soon the bullets whistled about our ears, and some arrows came quivering around us in the earth and in the posts of the palisade. Vasilissa Igorovna, said the commandant, this is not a place for women. Take away Masha, you see very well that the girl is more dead than alive. Vasilissa Igorovna, whom the sound of the bullets had somewhat subdued, glanced towards the steppe, where a great stir was visible in the crowd, and said to her husband, Ivan Kuzmich, life and death are in God's hands, bless Masha. Masha, go to your father. Pale and trembling, Marya approached Ivan Kuzmich and dropped on her knees, bending before him with reverence. The old commandant made the sign of the cross 3 times over her, then raised her up, kissed her, and said to her, in a voice husky with emotion, well, Masha, may you be happy. Pray to God, and He will not forsake you. If an honest man come forward, may God grant you both love and wisdom. Live together as we have lived, my wife and I. And now farewell, Masha. Vasilissa Igorovna, take her away quickly. Marya threw herself upon his neck and began sobbing. Kiss me, too, said the commandant's wife, weeping. Goodbye, my Ivan Kuzmich. Forgive me if I have ever vexed you. Goodbye, goodbye, little mother, said the commandant, embracing his old companion. There, now, enough, go away home, and if you have time put Masha on a sarafan. The commandant's wife went away with her daughter. I followed Marya with my eyes, she turned round and made me a last sign. Ivan Kuzmich came back to us, and turned his whole attention to the enemy. The rebels gathered round their leader, and all at once dismounted hastily. "Be ready," the commandant said to us, "the assault is about to begin." At the same moment resounded wild war cries. The rebels were racing down on the fort. Our cannon was loaded with grape. The commandant allowed them to approach within a very short distance, and again applied a match to the touch hole. The grape struck in the midst of the crowd, and dispersed it in every direction. The leader alone remained to the fore. Brandishing his sword, he appeared to be exhorting them hotly. The yells which had ceased for a moment were redoubled anew. "Now, children," cried the commandant, "open the door, beat the drum, and forward. Follow me for a sally." The commandant, Ivan Ignatievich, and I found ourselves in a moment beyond the parapet. But the garrison, afraid, had not stirred. "What are you doing, my children?" shouted Ivan Kuzmich. "If we must die, let us die, it is our duty."